Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Jacobs, alongside NFL expert Mike Kay, and you're listening to Juice Sports Radio. All right, Mike, we're now entering Week 9 of the NFL season, around the midway point of the 2011 season, and an interesting season at that. Philip Rivers has already thrown 11 interceptions this season. He had 13 as of last year. He had 9 the year before. What's happened this year to him in San Diego?
I don't know. It looks like there's a pretty big drought in this Philip Rivers. Sorry, I've been waiting all day to say that. I think his lack of ability to really get his teammates behind him has really started to affect him. I don't think that, you keep hearing whispers every year of his teammates hating him. And, for a while, his talent let all that stuff be exceeded because, they followed him because he was such a talented player and he was a good leader. You don't necessarily have to like your leaders, but you certainly want to follow them. But it just kind of seems like this year the team's kind of lost faith in him. As the season's gone on, he just makes boneheaded decisions. I heard on the radio at least 3 different people said today that he was going trick-or-treating as Tony Romo last night. So, I think most of the mistakes he's making are mental, and I don't think it has to do with ability. I think, you can't blame it on the lockout because every quarterback had to deal with the lockout. So it's really hard to grasp what is exactly going on with him.
I wrote on Juiced Sports that the fumble he had yesterday, it's not quite the same class as Romo's because it's a regular season game and not a playoff game. But that being said, this gap has the chance to potentially define his career should the Chargers really go into freefall mode. And we know that the AFC West is pretty much as mediocre and up for grabs as any division right now in the league. From what I've seen from the Chargers, yeah, they have their good moments, but just like Rivers, they also have their bad moments. This could be a career-defining moment, not in the sense of he's a failure, but in the sense of this could become representative of what people think of Rivers 20 years from now. Agree or disagree?
I strongly disagree. Had it been the playoffs, I would have agreed with you. And had they not missed the playoffs last year, I would have agreed with you. But, I think this team is average. They're not as great as I thought they would be, or as anybody thought they would be. I had Philip Rivers in my MVP talks. He was my second choice after Matt Ryan, and look how free Matt Ryan's been. I think it's just a consequence of this year and just how crazy it's been and unpredictable. I don't know. They came out and, the center he was with, Hardwick, they'd never had a botched snap. And Philip Rivers put it on him because I was totally on him if you watched how he took the snap. I don't know how you screw that up. It's so elementary. That's the first thing you learn, as a quarterback, to take a snap like that. And it's just he's been doing it for 10, 15 years. I don't understand why all of a sudden he finally drops back and it just falls.
And of course, it highlights the fascinating nature of sports in the sense of if this happened in the first quarter, no one remembers it. But like anything, it's the timing of when something happens. And because it happened with the Chargers deep into Kansas City territory, just trying to position themselves for a field goal to win the game, and the Chiefs having no timeouts, and basically being on the verge of getting a key AFC West division win under their belt, for that to happen, it just seemed to be the perfect crime, especially the way Rivers played in the first half. Although he atoned himself in the second half, I thought in the fourth quarter he really looked like he knew what he was doing out there, and he was just taking time, but not Tebow. See, here's what separates him and a guy like Tim Tebow, in my opinion. What he does is he looks for a play to develop, whereas Tim Tebow looks for a play to quickly break down so he can run. Rivers tries to scan the field and take as long as he needs to find that open receiver, and many times he was successful.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think what the play represented, it was just as perplexing. I don't know if you're familiar, or if our listeners are familiar, but the Miracle in the Meadowlands, not the Miracle in the New Meadowlands. The game was over. This happened in the early 80s. The game was over. All the Giants needed to do was hand off the ball a few times. This was before the victory formation was around. This is actually this play that created the victory formation because of how messed up it was. They botched a handoff to end the game. Herman Edwards picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown. And the Eagles won. That's what they call it, the Miracle in the Meadowlands. But anyway, that was the history lesson for the day, I guess. I mean, that's what it kind of reminded me of. And I remember text messaging you saying the miracle at Arrowhead, and you're like, well, if they win. And they ended up winning.
Right. Right, and because the reality is, if the Chargers come back and win that game, whether it's in overtime or somehow in regulation, whatever, no one remembers the play. But now, it's going to be one of the defining moments of the regular season.
Right, I mean, it is a defining moment because it's a division game, and like you said, the division's completely wide open. And it's just, I mean, it's a shame to see Phillip Rivers go. I mean, I know he's pegged as a whiny brat and kind of like a rebel, but like, it sucks watching him mouth worst day ever. I mean, and it was all over NFL Network and ESPN. I mean, it was sad. I mean,
you could see VH1 picking up on that and being like, Phillip Rivers, you're having the worst day ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, and he's better than that. And he's actually the quarterback on my fantasy team, and believe me, I know how awful he's been. Then again, I think, on the bright side, there are stuff the team can take away out of that loss, frankly. He's a Syracuse grad, came out, showed them that they have options at the running game. I mean, it's not just all Mike Talbert and Ryan Matthews and Jacob Hester. They've got a fourth guy now. So, I mean, I think he had a hell of a fourth quarter, by the way.
3 straight unbelievable plays. He had an unbelievable catch. Then he dove over the pylon, and then he had a 2-point conversion. Hard to find a player, never mind a superstar, that has that many important plays in a row besides a quarterback, I guess. So that was incredible, the way he made his entrance into that game.
Yeah, and I thought Norv Turner called a pretty good game. I mean, when they were down, Phillip Rivers single-handedly lost in the game. I will tell you that. And it wasn't just because of his botched fumble. It was because of his 2 interceptions. He really just never seemed comfortable in the game. But I think his supporting cast can take a lot of, positives out of their performance.
I guess my question is, have the Chargers recovered since losing LaDainian Tomlinson? And I don't mean the LaDainian Tomlinson towards the end of his Chargers tenure, but the LaDainian Tomlinson that was so versatile, they used to be able to put him in all kinds of different packages, and Phillip Rivers didn't have to be the guy. He was more of a complement. Now it seems like Rivers is the guy, and the running game is what it is. Some days it's good, other days it's not so great. Matthews has had trouble staying healthy. He was a highly coveted draft pick. A lot of people thought out of Fresno State he was going to become a heck of a running back for the Chargers, just plug him right in. Well, it hasn't happened that way. Is that what the Chargers are sort of missing, that elite-level running back to get them where they used to be?
I mean, it's hard to tell because the last time that, LT was like a complete running back, like the way you're talking about, was when Marty Schottenheimer was there. And the season he left, right after he left, Norv Turner took over. He hadn't been the same since. So either you blame it on Norv Turner for their woes, or you blame it on LT's decline. But I think it was a little bit of both. And now that you're seeing no LT, and now no Darren Sproles, Norv Turner, who's a quarterback guy, is having a problem with his supporting cast, which is then affecting his quarterback.
Well, Mike, pleasure as always. For more Juiced Sports information and analysis, check us out at juicedsportsblog.com. Follow us on Twitter at Juiced Sports Now. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/juicedsports. We are all over the interwebs. So check us out and leave your opinions below. We're always happy to interact with our viewers and listeners. For Mike, I'm Scott. Good night, everybody.